Let's talk about why your doctor doesn't recognize adrenal fatigue as an official diagnosis. It's actually not allowed. And depending on the doctor, they may or may not tell you this, but medically speaking, adrenal fatigue is just a term that's used to describe a cluster of symptoms such as fatigue, sleep disturbances, difficult coping with stress. And it's all believed to be caused by long-term stress in an overworked adrenal system. Now, there is not a medical test for it, and things your doctor can do are kind of limited because the diagnosis doesn't officially exist in the medical world. As a result, unfortunately, if you have these things, and many individuals do, you're just a cluster of symptoms. And sometimes you may even hear that it's in your head, or here's a prescription for antidepressant or sleep medication, get a good night's sleep and call me in the morning kind of diagnosis and result. And it's really unfortunate, right? Because as a result, a lot of people are just living with this and it doesn't feel good. And it leads to so many other problems that don't have to be. So it's not really your doctor's fault. They are trained to take your symptoms and match them against a physician desk reference and align it to a prescription. That's what they do for a living. Now, I've shared, this is the medical definition of adrenal fatigue, which basically it doesn't exist. And it's just a cluster of symptoms. Now, for all of us who know better, and even a lot of doctors know this too, adrenal fatigue definitely exists. It occurs when we have a high state of fight or flight triggering in our stress response system, and it happens for an extended period of time, and it's depleted our energy reserves, our vitamins and mineral reserves, and we are trying to navigate and mitigate stress impacts throughout the body. And when I speak holistically of the body, I'm referring to your physical body, your mental well-being, and your emotional health. Your adrenals are located just above the kidneys. Okay, they're two little glands. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the kidney is where we store our vitality of life, our qi. Therefore, it only makes perfect sense that if we are seeing symptoms like those described by adrenal fatigue, we are also seeing low energy response that in Chinese medicine we can trace to our kidneys. Pretty smart, huh? It is actually why when you see someone with adrenal fatigue, we commonly find other problems popping up, such as dehydration, depression, low energy overall, weakened kidney function, kidney infections, and kidney stones. It's not always these things that happen, but it can be additional things we notice because stress impacts not only adrenals, but since they are so close to the kidneys, they can definitely be impacted there as well. So missing this key thing in our medical system is causing a litany of other problems that simply go unrecognized. So we have a big gap here between what the medical system recognizes and what holistically we recognize as holistic adrenal fatigue. The reasons for this and the things that can be done for adrenal fatigue are also greatly different as a result of this. Now, holistically, when we are dealing with adrenal fatigue, there is often a need for a multi-pronged approach, okay? First, it is so important to give relief to things we are feeling, symptoms, but it is also important to not stop there. We have to start digging to the root cause for why this happened. Secondly, it is really important to get to the root cause because that's where we build the plan to fix things. And sometimes that can mean things get better before they get worse. Because holistically healing, the body goes down the path backwards that it came down on to get to where it is. It retraces that path that led to adrenal fatigue and all the problems that came up all along the way to getting adrenal fatigue, so that they can often be re-experienced because they were earlier signals our body tried to send us that there was a problem. And we may or may not have been trying to do something about them. Or we may have gone to our doctor and got told there's nothing they can do for that. These may or may not have been known. That's the other part, right? Because we're so trained to just ignore pain and go about our day and keep doing the stressful things and ignore the pain. Well, as a result, the pain messages get louder and louder over time, and here we are now. Now, the other thing is you're dealing with life situations, right? A lot of stress. And we have not taken that moment to breathe and see how we're doing in those situations. That's the other reason we got here, is that we didn't know, because again, we're so trained to just deal with stress and to accept it with nothing that we should be doing about it. So all of these things lead to why we're feeling the way we feel. And it's really unfortunate. The way I approach this with my clients is that we look at the interplay between your physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual factors and what is going on. We do a comprehensive assessment to look at all areas of your health. Okay. And I don't have a magical book that I take all your symptoms and match them up against. We don't do that here. Usually, the number one thing that I see with adrenal fatigue is the need for stress management. We are really good at underplaying how much stress we actually deal with and the effects that that is having on our health. Okay. Nothing depletes your vitamin mineral reserves in your body faster than a good stressful day. But what happens is with stress, it influences a lot of things, including what we eat, sleep, and respond to on the average day. So it's an accumulation of all these different things. And when we start depleting that vitamin and mineral supply because of stress, it quickly triggers into other things: cravings, binge watching Netflix, continually getting cold and sinus infections, and a whole litany of other things, because your body is starting to respond to the immune system constantly being in overdrive. This leads to the next thing we look at, which is your nutrition and supplementation. When you're dealing with things like adrenal fatigue, one of the best things we can do is look at what supplements we need and what is being depleted the fastest. That can be a number of things and is unique to each of us, but in general, vitamin D, your B vitamins, magnesium, potassium, as well as vitamin C are the ones that I will usually look at first and determine where we are seeing those deficiencies happen. And we do this with some quick, easy muscle testing that I can do in person or remotely, but we can identify those deficiencies. And we can look at what food and supplementation are needed to help restore that. The thing with adrenal fatigue is we usually feel tired all the time. It never goes away despite getting 12 hours of sleep. It is even when we think our body battery should be higher, and then you look at your little fitness watch and it's a 2 again. So we have to also look at ourselves energetically. And this is where things like energy services come into play, like your Reiki, your meditation, your chakra balances, because all of those help the body go into a relaxation mode where it can start to do the repairs from stress. Now, the other thing is there's this thing called mud packing, and it's an energetic service that I do, and it pulls out the energy blocks. So if you think of stress as creating little dents in your energy field around your body, the specific mud that I use pulls those dents out. It's like paintless dent repair for your body. And it's powerful when you're dealing with something like adrenal fatigue, because it helps restore all those things that our body is trying to do. But it's like hitting this brick wall of energy, right? It can't go past this point. So you feel depleted and you can't get your body what it needs in those specific areas. Okay. And that could be headaches, it could be pain, it could be joint pain, it could be, lower back pain. There's a whole bunch of things that this presents as. Now, the other thing is there's a lot of good herbs and flower essences and even essential oils that I can look at for an individual needs based on their adrenal fatigue. Now, again, it has to be aligned to you specifically because when you're dealing with things like adrenal fatigue and, say, PTSD, things like lavender might not be the best approach, okay? Because we all respond differently to these situations. So, working with you on an energetic level provides that healing support and much needed relief up front while we're working on this larger problem. And that's what these things were intended to do. Now, when it comes to adrenal fatigue, we are dealing with short and long term game plan that help us get to a point we can take on the bigger healing work that need to occur in lifestyle, fitness, stress management, diet, all of it. But if we don't start with the small things and get you some relief, then it's going to be a lot harder. It's just going to feel like more stress trying to deal with the bigger things. And we already can't deal with what we have, right? That's why we have adrenal fatigue. So this is why working with a holistic health practitioner can be beneficial. It can help give you that support that's needed now for relief, as well as that short and long-term game plan to help you overcome some of the challenges that you're experiencing with adrenal fatigue. It can also help you have that better conversation with your medical doctor to get additional support where that is needed as well. So for appointments with me, you can set up a time with me at dragonspitapothecary.com.